to ET Now. You're watching Market Cafe with me, Kanishka Sarkar and Srishti Sharma. And over the next 1 hour, we'll take you through all the global and domestic cues that you need to watch out for and also tell you about the stocks that you need to keep on your radar today. But before all of that, first up, let's take a look at what's happening in Bihar. Now, voting has concluded in the second phase of Bihar Assembly Elections 2025 with a record turnout reaching nearly 69%. And exit polls are unanimously predicting a resounding victory for the NDA alliance. So what a battle it's been. Now, major surveys project that the NDA securing between 133 and 167 seats in the 243-member House. This is well above the majority mark of 122 and paves way for Chief Minister Nitish Kumar's return to the House. Now, the Mahagathbandhan, on the other hand, led by Tejashwi Yadav, is trailing with estimates of 70 to 103 seats, whereas Prashant Kishore's Jan Suraj, contrary to all the hype, has made a tepid debut with 0 to 5 seats. But remember, exit polls have been often off the mark, and the final verdict comes on November 14th, so will it be the return of NDA to power in Bihar, or is there a twist in this tale as claimed by several political observers given the record voter turnout? Let's hear out what experts have to say about it.
I think, if these figures turn out to be right, and they could well be, because the ground level voices pointed to the fact that there was no anger against Nitish Kumar, despite 20 years of CM-ship. There was fatigue in parts, there was boredom in parts, and then suddenly after the 10,000 rupees for women, one woman in every eligible family, the momentum started to pick up. So there wasn't any fatigue. I would call this, if it comes out to be true, this is an election of Shraddha, a word used repeatedly towards him, and sympathy for Nitish Kumar, with a large number of people realizing that this is going to be probably his last election, that he's not keeping well. And yet, he has done a lot for Bihar, as you said, restored law and order, which many people talk about, many schemes that have benefited various sections, including the extremely backward, the women, the Dalits. And they've said he did things for Bihar, not for himself or his family. Those are the kind of voices that you could hear from the ground. On the other side, there is the Mahagathbandhan, and there was young people who want change, who talked about livelihoods, who talked about economic benefit and change. So, but Tejaswi Yadav is shaping well. He has struck many sober notes, taking the party away from the Jungle Raj image. He's talked about creating jobs, and more jobs. So that's a new note coming from the RJD. And he's given a moderate image. But obviously, it was not enough.
Chief Minister Nitish Kumar has worked in the direction of bringing the women at par with men. From his inception as the Chief Minister in 2005, he has worked, or he has set an example in the field of women empowerment. The opposition has from time pointed out when this Mahila Rozgar Yojana and the amount, which we call as the direct benefit transfers that was given to the women, they have always criticized that it was at the time of the election period and it was to lure the women vote in Bihar, but it is not so. When Nitish Kumarji came in power in 2005 and in 2006, he made 50% reservation in the Panchayati Raj system. I don't think that was the election time that was there in Bihar. Then in 2007, when he made a 50% reservation in the Nagar Nikayas, that was also not a time when the elections were to be held. When he came out with these cycle schemes, which was given to the girls, the school girls were given cycles, that was also not the election time. So the women vote is based on the welfare that has been done by Nitish Kumar for the women population in Bihar. It is not that we wanted to lure the women votes in Bihar. That is why this 10,000 was given to the women. Nitish Kumarji has always been a pro-women empowerment person, and Nitish Kumarji stands. He carries his legacy as the Sushasan Babu, the title that was given to him out of love and out of the work that he had done in Bihar.
most of the times exit polls go wrong, right? I mean, it's 50-50. So if it has to be a 50-50, then anybody can make a guess and then, pray that you get it right. So I will not give much importance to these exit polls as such, and I'll wait for 14th November, and we'll see what happens. We have worked hard. We have tried to convince our people that we are a vikalp, an alternative. You can think about it. This is our agenda. Now let the people decide. They have to take a leap of faith. If they decide to vote for us, fine. If they didn't, we'll go back to them again and we'll try and talk to them again.
All right, so that's the as per the exit poll, it's been good for the NDA so far. But with this, let's also listen into what Prashant Kishore had to say.
We have with us Prashant Kishore, who is going to vote, sir. Anything and one message that you want to give to the voters today, sir?
Break the record of the first round.
Yes, sir.
Poll more than 65% vote. Vote for the change. Vote for the better Bihar.
Prashant, sir, I have been on the ground. People are talking about Jan Swaraj. We see massive support. But can that be converted into seats, sir? How do you see this?
You will see on 14th. The history will be written in Bihar.
Yes, sir.
And India will be witness to that history making.
So that was Prashant Kishore going to cast his vote and clearly saying that history will be created on 14th. So that is the confidence that Prashant Kishore has. So we have to wait and watch what exactly will pan out on 14th.
People are absolutely ready for a change. People watched the campaign of the Mahagathbandhan, people watched the campaign of the NDA, and they realized that the campaign of Mahagathbandhan was only talking about the actual issues of unemployment, of security, of what the traders face, what the farmers face. On the contrary, the Prime Minister's language was below average, I mean, in the sense that people were shocked that the Prime Minister can in this language was something which Bihar is not willing to accept.
All right, so very interesting trends emerging from Bihar exit polls, and we'll watch out for the results on November 14th. But for now, it's time to slip into a very short break. We'll be right back with all that's happening across. Hi there, welcome back to ET Now. You're watching Market Cafe with me, Kanishka Sarkar and Srishti Sharma. Well, time now to see how the global markets have fared overnight. And first up, let's put the spotlight on US. Now, it was a tale of two markets on Wall Street on Tuesday, that is last night. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, that surged more than 550 points, closing at a record high, whereas the Nasdaq Composite, the tech-heavy composite, that slipped as investors rotated out of high-growth tech and into value and defensive plays. The S&P 500, that also ended higher, marking its third straight day of gains. Consumer heavyweights like Walmart, Home Depot and McDonald's, they powered the Dow's rally yesterday, with investors gravitating towards sectors seen as more resilient and less tied to the artificial intelligence trade, which has been in focus for a few weeks now on the back of earnings. Meanwhile, healthcare led sectoral gains lifted by moves in Eli Lilly and Johnson & Johnson. On the flip side, AI favorites such as Nvidia, they pulled back, reflecting growing caution that valuations in the tech space, they may be running hot as far as the US market is concerned. In fact, analysts are noting that while enthusiasm around AI remains strong, investors are becoming more cautious. So yes, that's how the trend was. If you look at the macro front, sentiment was also shaped by the ADP employment report that came out, and it showed that private payrolls declined in October, which has heightened concerns over the labor market softness during the ongoing US government shutdown that's been going on. So yes, those are some of the key factors that we are watching out for once the shutdown gets over, and we'll see more data and we'll see how the market reacts to it then. But for now, it's been a tale of two markets. Dow has seen a growth, whereas Nasdaq, that saw a bit of a decline yesterday.
All right, but so positive handover coming in from the US markets. But when it comes to the Asian markets, they are positive too, because all the major indices are trading with that shade of green. Not big gains in any of the index, but yes, it's Nikkei that is trading in the green, even Kospi as well. That is seen to be having a good day. Nikkei is trading with almost flat right now with just 39 points of gain, nothing much over there. But when it comes to Hang Seng, that is also trading in the green right now. What we see is that almost 0.4% of a gain coming in for Hang Seng. And when it comes to a Kospi as well, that is also 0.5% higher as we speak right now. And so is the case for GIFT Nifty as well. Almost 0.5% gain coming in, but in terms of the points, it's 144 points of gain is what GIFT Nifty is indicating, very close to that 25,600 mark. So definitely expect it to be a good day for the Indian markets as well. But Kanishka, lots been happening with respect to crude. That is seen to be having a good day indeed.
Absolutely. In fact, oil prices, they are steady today after a 3-day rally. This is investors are waiting for fresh reports that could shape the global crude outlook in 2026. If you talk about Brent, that's trading near that $65 per barrel mark, whereas the WTI, that's hovering close to the $61 per barrel mark. This is after a 1.7% gain that they saw in the previous session. Now, remember, the street is also watching out for OPEC Plus's monthly market analysis and international energy agencies, that is IEA's annual energy outlook, that are due both later today. So yes, that's the data that we'll be watching out for. The WTI prompt spread, that's a key market indicator that has also narrowed to just about 5 cents a barrel. That signals that expectations of a looser supply-demand balance ahead. In fact, crude prices, they have struggled this year. This is amid concerns, of potential surplus, as OPEC Pluses, including Russia, that has restored production, and non-OPEC Plus producers, they have ramped up output too. So yes, the IEA has already projected a record glut next year, while banks like Goldman Sachs, they are warning of global oil inventories that could be rising. So yes, so a little bit of a breather there, very steady levels. $65 is where the crude is right now, Brent is right now. Steady moves after a 3-day rally that we saw.
All right, that's about the global checks. But with this, let's also tell you which are the other top stories that we are tracking at this point. And first up, the U.S. House is back in Washington after 53 days of recess for the pivotal vote to end the nation's longest ever government shutdown. Now it's in 42nd day. Now the Senate passed the bipartisan funding deal, and the House Speaker Mike Johnson expects it to clear the chamber today, wherein the agreement would reopen shuttered federal agencies, extend healthcare subsidies that have divided Democrats.
On to some macro data then. Private sector data from ADP shows that US companies were cutting over 11,000 jobs a week through late October. That's signaling a slowdown in hiring momentum. The firm's new weekly payroll estimates, they highlight that softening labor market is there that could influence the Federal Reserve's next move on interest rates. The Fed has already trimmed rates twice this year and is expected to cut again in December as well.
And SoftBank has sold its entire $5.83 billion stake in NVIDIA, offloading 32.1 million shares in October as a part of its push to raise the cash for massive artificial intelligence investments, including a $22.5 billion bet on OpenAI. Now, the Japanese conglomerate also sold part of its T-Mobile stake for $9.2 billion and tapped a margin loan on the ARM shares to bolster the funding. Now, SoftBank says these moves strengthen its balance sheet while fueling the growth in AI and robotics ventures.
Next up, AMD CEO Lisa Su says that the company expects explosive 35% annual revenue growth over the next 3 to 5 years that would be powered by insatiable demand for AI chips. Now, the CEO has projected that AMD's data center AI business alone could grow about 80% annually, reaching tens of billions in sales by 2027 and capturing a double-digit share of the market, dominated by NVIDIA's 90% hold for now.
And big shot investor Michael Burry is taking aim at big tech, accusing major AI hyperscalers like Oracle and Meta of artificially inflating the profits by stretching out how long they say their NVIDIA chips and servers last. Now, in a post on X, Burry claimed this accounting tweak understates the depreciation and could overstate the industry earnings by $176 billion between 2026 and 2028. Now, he estimated Oracle's and Meta's profit may be exaggerated by 27% and 21% respectively. Burry warned that the AI boom is echoing the late 1990s tech bubble.
Next up, a Turkish military C-130 cargo plane carrying at least 20 people has crashed near the Azerbaijan-Georgia border. Turkey's defense ministry has confirmed this development. Now, the president has offered condolences to our martyrs, though casualties have not yet been confirmed. Now, remember, the aircraft was flying from Azerbaijan to Turkey when it vanished from a radar without a distress call before crashing near Georgia. Now, the search and rescue operations, they are underway as Azerbaijan and the US offered condolences to Ankara.
All right, viewers, with this, let's move on and let's get back home and tell you the latest with respect to the India-US deal, wherein sources tell ET now that India-US trade deal may be finalized soon as India awaits US response to the proposal. Now, India also feels that there is no need for additional rounds of negotiations. Let me take it across to my colleague Sumita, who joins in with more details on this one. Take it away, Sumita.
That's right. Hours after the United States President Donald Trump stated that Washington and New Delhi were pretty close to reaching a fair trade deal, and the fact that the United States is planning to reduce tariffs on Indian imports, a senior government official has told ET now. In fact, he has echoed the optimism, and he's indicated that another round of negotiations between the two sides might not be needed. In fact, sources are also telling ET now that now the Indian side is waiting for a United States response to the trade deal which has been proposed. And in fact, talks are progressing well between both the sides. And India is negotiating not just a comprehensive trade deal, but a trade deal that's WTO compliant as well with the United States. And of course, the government source also told ET now that India has kept in mind sensitivities of each of the sensitive sectors in trade talks. So whether it's related to agri, dairy, GM crops, and several others. In fact, 5 rounds of talks between both the sides have happened. And in fact, the last in-person round happened last month in Washington. And after the conclusion of that round, a senior government official told ET now that India and the United States are very close to reaching a trade deal, given the fact that convergence on most of the issues has been reached. And in fact, that there are no new issues that are coming up as far as that trade deal is concerned. And just yesterday, Commerce and Industry Minister also stated that India is at the moment not just diversifying to markets, but it's also looking at newer markets like Russia, for instance, for its fisheries segment. On the trade deal, he said that we're working for a good trade deal and India is not going to compromise with the interests of farmers. And of course, most importantly, he stated when asked about the conclusion of the deal, he said that a trade deal can happen tomorrow, it can happen next month, it can happen next year. But the bottom line is that as a government, India is preparing for any contingency.
All right, thank you, Sumita, for getting us the latest on the India-US trade deal that we're watching out for. But moving on, let's take stock of which are the stocks that we need to keep on our radar today. And Ashesha is standing by with just that list. Ashesha, good morning. Which are the stocks that you're tracking today?
Good morning, and first up, let's talk about Tata Motors, because Tata Motors commercial vehicle arm will get listed on the bourses today, and based on the demerger price, the implied value for the commercial business is pegged at about 260 to 270 rupees per share. So on the back of this listing, which is likely to happen today, keep an eye out on Tata Motors. Adani Enterprises, meanwhile, on the back of their fundraising plans, will be in focus today, where the board is launching 25,000 crore rights issue, and the issue price is at about 1800 rupees per share, implying nearly 24% premium as compared to current market price. The record date for the same has been fixed as 17th of November. So on the back of this 25,000 crore rights issue that has been announced, keep an eye out on this Adani Group company. Tata Power, meanwhile, has reported weak set of numbers for the quarter gone by. Revenue is down 1% YOY. EBITDA margins too have contracted from nearly 24% a year ago to nearly 21% for the second quarter. Second quarter was impacted on account of prolonged monsoon and temporary shutdown of the plant in the quarter gone by. So yes, weak set of numbers. Perhaps we could see some bit of negative action as far as Tata Power is concerned. BSE, meanwhile, has reported strong set of numbers where index option volume shot up in the quarter gone by, and that aided numbers for the company on a sequential basis. Revenue is up a solid 12%, EBITDA is up 10%, and derivatives and collection segment also led growth for the company in the quarter gone by. Biocon, that one has reported a good set of numbers. This was on account of other income which shot up by nearly 190% on a year-on-year basis. And as far as biosimilar sales are concerned, that too rose 25% YOY. And remember, order wins and new tenderings have also shot up across various regions in European Union and emerging markets. So yes, good set of numbers. Biocon will also be in focus.
All right, thank you so much, Ashesha, for getting us all those details. But with this, let's also tell you which are some of the other counters that we will be watching out for. First off, let's talk about Bharat Forge. Just yesterday, we had seen a very good set of numbers coming in. And even today, there's a positive news flow wherein company's arm, Kalyani's strategic system, has backed a new order worth 250 crores from the Defense Ministry. This Defense Ministry order is for the supply of underwater systems. Other than that, one of the star performers of yesterday, Vodafone Idea, almost a 7% jump just yesterday. Today, there are reports suggesting that the government has already initiated relief package relief package for Vodafone Idea, and this is the move that follows the Supreme Court verdict in the AGR case. So positive development for Vodafone Idea indeed. Now, in some of the earnings, EIH will be in focus. Weak set of numbers coming in, wherein this time around the revenue is up just 1.5% on a YOY basis, though the EBITDA, the operational performance tracker, is down 12%, while the margins are also seen to be getting weak on a YOY basis. 11.8% is what the company reported this time. Awas Financials will be in focus as well, as this time around the company did come out with a good set, while the management commentary remains quite upbeat, where they say that the disbursements have normalized, the spreads are seen to be improving, and the management projects 18% AUM growth for FY26 and over 20% subsequently. And lastly, Power Grid will be in focus as well on the back of the news flow that the board will meet on November 17 to consider the fundraising via NCDs. So these are the counters that we will be watching out for.
All right, so lots of counters to watch out for, but lots of cues as well that we must keep on our radar today. And Mithali is here to take us through all of that.
So there's a plenty on the radar for the markets today, from key India inflation data to a flurry of Q2 earnings and a couple of big listings to watch. Let's break down the cues that will be shaping the trade for today. Starting with the macro pictures, India's CPI data will be closely tracked. Inflation trends will set the tone for the rate expectation ahead of the next RBI policy meet. On the global's earning calendar, Singapore's telecom giant Singtel will be in focus. Meanwhile, a series of key speeches from the top US Fed officials could offer fresh cues on the Fed's rate path. Keep an eye on oil as OPEC releases its monthly oil market report later today. Back home, it's another earnings busy day. On the Nifty, we have Tata Steel and Asian Paints headline the numbers. Beyond the index, watch out for Honasa Consumer, Ircon, HAL, Cochin Shipyard, Nazara Technologies and Info Edge, and many others, all set to announce their quarterly results. Big corporate developments ahead too. Tata Motors commercial vehicle arm is set to list on the bourses today, making a major milestone for the automaker's restructuring plan. Also, we have All Cargo Gati, which will be officially merged with the All Cargo Logistics, creating a unified logistics powerhouse. In the primary market, we have two key events. The much awaited Grow IPO will be listed on the exchanges, while the Tenneco Clean Air IPO opens for subscription. Looking in the expiries to note, lock-in expiries to note, we have Bluestone Jewelry with about 4% of its free float coming unlocked, and Acme Solar, where nearly 63% of shares becomes tradable. Watch out for the movements in both the counters. So plenty of moving parts today. Inflation data, heavy earnings line up, fresh listings. We are all set to keep the traders busy for the day.
All right, thank you so much, Mithali.
Hi there, welcome back to ET Now. You're watching Market Cafe with me, Kanishka Sarkar, and Srishti Sharma. The time now to take you through some more news flow that we're getting this morning. Now remember, the first board meet of Tata Trust after Meili Mistry stepped down as the trustee concluded yesterday, and Neville Tata, Bhaskar Bhatt, they have been appointed as the trustees now. Anurag Joshi, my colleague, is here to take us through all the highlights of the meeting.
Neville Tata and Bhaskar Bhatt have been appointed as trustees on the Tata Trust Board. This is the first meeting of the Trust Board after after the exit of Meli Mistry, who in a letter on November 4 to Chair Noel Tata had expressed his desire to part ways with the trust. The Board of Trustees of the Sar Dorab Ji Tata met and they have made the new appointments. Neville is Chair Noel Tata's son, while Bhaskar Bhatt is a former managing director of Titan Company. The trustees were unanimously approved for induction, and their appointment is effective from November 12th. The board has also decided to appoint Venu Srinivasan for a period of 3 years. The trust said that this is in compliance with legal and regulatory requirements, but also at the same time, on September 1, Maharashtra government had brought an ordinance which basically regulates the term limits of trustees of public trust. So this is in consonance of that. Srinivasan has also been designated as a vice chairman of the Sir Dorabji Tata Trust. Neville is currently a member of certain trusts of the group. On November 4, Meli Mistry had stepped down, and that was after 2 months of acrimonious boardroom tussle he had with other members. On October 28, his reappointment came up through a resolution and did not pass through because Chair Noel Tata and 2 other trustees had voted against him.
All right, thank you so much for getting us all those details. But AI, the latest buzz on the street for the market across the globe. But what does Vallabh Bhansali have to say about it? Let's find out from an excerpt from the latest episode of ET Now Masterclass.
Every decade I've seen business houses wanting to start a finance company. Right from 85, 86 I've seen, and I handled some of those issues. And they come to grief because it's not their capability. Similarly, petrochemical, when Reliance was booming, people wanted to adopt the Reliance kind of style. So there will be some people who will get taken in. But say, if I look at, say, when Reliance started going up the ranks and became the largest company or a very large market cap company, I've had discussion with older business houses. They say, look, we get our time in the sun, somebody else gets a time in the sun, if we don't forget our business model. So the mature people are clever enough or wise enough not to get swayed by, some new business style narrative emerging. But if they fail to see the underlying technology, then it's trouble. Infosys brought governance. If you did not see the power of governance, you did not see the power of employee motivation, you were in trouble.
All right, so that's the word coming in. But more over there in the masterclass with ET Now. Now we have Vallabh Bhansali. Like you were listening to it. In fact, let's also get a sneak peek into this very special interaction that he had with my colleague Sajid. He's also spoken about the Adani Group. And let's watch out for the full episode right here on ET Now. But for now, here's a quick excerpt of that conversation.
I think the Adani Group has emerged as a company which has mastered building big infra projects in record times. And they've also shown great ability to face turbulence. As I just said, that you can't face turbulence. I mean, Hindenburg was something that was a blow not only to Adani, but also it was a blow to the whole country. I mean, they tried to drag Indian government and India as a name into the whole controversy. So it was a big one. And it was also a relatively new industrial house, which was not tested. There's always a skepticism about new boys. And I remember even Infosys. I remember Reliance, right? For several years, I used to, defend, talk about Reliance that this is not a bubble. It used to be called a bubble. This bubble will burst by the old houses.
Moving on to some of the other stock-specific action expected today, and Vedanta will be in focus as NCLT will hear its demerger matter today. My colleague Anurag joins in with more details. Anurag.
The National Company Law Tribunal will hear Vedanta's demerger plan on Wednesday. To give you a roundup about the recent events surrounding the NCLT hearing and the demerger proposal, on October 29th, Securities and Exchange Board of India's affidavit before NCLT mentioned its approval to the demerger with certain conditions. On September 17, the NCLT hearing, the Oil Ministry's lawyer had raised objections to the demerger, but had mentioned that the ministry is not per se against the demerger, but had raised concerns about certain risks, including financial risks. On September 11th, Vedanta unit Talwandi Sabo, which is a power company, they reached a settlement with China's SEPCO. SEPCO is a power infra company in China over settlement of dues. And on August 14, SEBI had issued a warning letter to Vedanta about the non-disclosure of changes which the group had made to the demerger plan. In September 2023, Vedanta had proposed the process of demerging its businesses into 6 listed units, saying that the demerger plan focused on shareholder value unlocking.
All right, so that's the latest on Vedanta's demerger plan. Thank you, Anurag, for those details. But moving on, Mirae Asset Investment Suranjana Borthakur shared her views on where SIP flows are headed this time around and if they can offset the lull in FII inflows. Let's listen in.
If you see the SIP numbers, actually they have been continuously growing. So it's a very encouraging thing. You know, there's not been very large quantum of FII flows coming in because in comparison to a lot of other emerging economies, India was a little expensive. Now probably the valuations have leveled up across, which is where going forward, maybe once the Fed rate cuts, etc., happen, we can probably see more inflows coming towards the emerging markets and where we will get our fair share. But what has structurally been changing is probably the DII flows, which has been not just, you know, blips in the market, but it has been very consistent flows, and which is what is supporting our market. So I think SIP flows staying intact long term is very encouraging. The fact that we are maturing as investors, the fact that we are recognizing that long-term wealth creation, also compounding, also has a very large role to play. I think people are understanding the merits of staying invested long-term and not just timing the market, but staying invested in the market. I think these are all encouraging signals. And while we can see a little bit of upside and downside in the net inflows in a month, I think SIP book staying intact is a good signal overall.
All right, but for this viewers, it's time now to slip into a very short.
As consumer inflation, that is likely to plunge to the lowest level in at least a decade in October. That's the that's coming in from experts. In fact, easing inflation is on the back of a sustained fall in food prices and intensified by a higher base of comparison last year. Mithali is here to take us through all the details.
Right. So in a surprising turn, India's retail inflation may fall to over a decadal low. Since October, a Reuters poll of 42 economists pegs the CPI inflation at just 0.48%, down sharply from 1.54% in September. The drop, the lowest since 2012 CPI series began, is driven by following the food prices, especially vegetables, which have actually seen double-digit declines for 6 months in a row. A high base effect and recent GST rate cuts have added to the softening here. The wholesale price index is also expected to slip into the red at minus 0.6% year-on-year basis. Economists say inflation is likely near its bottom, though risks remain about the weather and supply disruptions. The government is preparing to revise the CPI base year to 2024, lowering the food weight, a move that could smooth the future inflation swings. For now, inflation looks comfortably subdued, but the focus will now remain to how the RBI responds in their next MPC meet. So now we have how the CPI number comes, we'll have an eye on that.
All right, thank you so much for all those details. But moving on to some of the earnings candidates then, and Asian Paints will be in focus today. But what is the street really penciling in? Let me take it across to my colleague Rabinder, who's standing by with the whole number crunching. Rabinder.
Well, as Asian Paint is set to announce their Q2 FY26 number, and Street is estimating a revenue at rupees 8,156 crore as compared to 8,028 crore year-on-year basis, with an uptick of more than 1.5% year-on-year basis. And if we talk about PAT, then Street is estimating a PAT with an uptick of 28% year-on-year basis, and EBITDA margins is also expected to be expand this quarter year-on-year basis, and Street is estimating a EBITDA at rupees 1,340 crore as compared to 1,240 crore with an uptick of more than 8% year-on-year basis. And if we talk about the volume growth, then in this quarter, volume growth is expected to be in the range of 4 to 5% year-on-year basis, and demand condition is likely to remain subdued, especially in the urban markets, and extended rainfall has further impacted decorative paint segment. And if we talk about margins, then margins is expected to slightly improve year-on-year basis on the lower crude oil. And if we talk about the key things to watch out for, then the management commentaries on demand trend, input cost trend, rebating and discounting trend, and dealer addition trajectory.
All right, so that's about Asian Paints. Thank you, Rabinder, for that roundup. All eyes on Asian Paints and its numbers. But let's keep it with the earnings space. And Tata Steel is also set to come out with its Q2 earnings later today, where the street is expecting to see substantial uptick in the net profit on a year-on-year basis. Ashesha is here to tell us what to expect.
Yes, we are expecting a strong set of numbers from steel major Tata Steel this time around. Remember, the company has already reported a strong volume growth for the quarter gone by, despite seasonal weakness in the second quarter on account of monsoon. So as far as numbers are concerned, consolidated revenue is expected to come in at about 56,200 crores, which will be an uptick of 6% on a sequential basis and about 4% on a year-on-year basis. Margins, meanwhile, are expected to become at about 15.1% versus 14% that the company had reported in the first quarter. As I mentioned, volumes were on the higher side, that the company has already reported delivery growth of about 20% on a sequential basis as far as its domestic operations are concerned. Apart from that, as far as steel prices are concerned, in the domestic market, we did see a downward trend in the second quarter on account of monsoon, and hence realizations, standalone realizations, could decline by about 4.5% on a sequential basis. Meanwhile, let's also talk about European operations. That is expected to report profit yet again. Last quarter, it reported a profit of about $8 per ton, that's EBITDA per ton, and that is likely to come in at about $6 per ton in the second quarter. Netherlands operations is likely to report profit, and that profit is likely to expand on a sequential basis. UK losses, meanwhile, could also rise on a sequential basis. Any kind of management commentary with respect to European operations, with respect to their capex plans, and also with respect to steel price trend will be crucial. But all in all, volumes were on the higher side, and that is likely to aid. Coking coal prices have declined, which is likely to aid spreads in the quarter gone by. But all eyes will be on management commentary, especially with respect to UK and Netherlands operations.
All right, thank you so much, Ashesha, for getting us all those details. But with this, viewers, let's move on and let's put the spotlight on Tata Motors' commercial vehicle division, because as a part of their value unlocking effort, Tata Motors commercial vehicle will be listed today on the bourses. So an interesting one indeed, because for today, what we are expecting is sort of a good listing rather, because in terms of the implied value after the kind of demerged entity from Tata Motors, we have seen that the markets were giving a value of 260 to 270 rupees apiece to the commercial vehicle arm of Tata Motors. But in terms of the analyst estimates, and if we look at the valuation perspective, then it's Nuvama that is valuing Tata Motors CV arm 1 year forward EV by EBITDA on that matrix at 280 rupees apiece. Elara Security pegs the valuation and the whole SOTP valuation within that Tata Motors commercial vehicle to be about 336 odd rupees, while Jeffrey's target price is around 333 odd rupees with respect to 1 year forward EV by EBITDA multiple. Now, with respect to the listing scenarios, assuming that the listing is expected to be muted around 260 odd levels with a 5% cut to 247, with a 5% higher and a jump of that percentage point 273 is what we are pegging off. So that sort of a range is what you can expect for Tata Motors. But saying that, what all factors will be at play for Tata Motors commercial vehicle division. The key to note is that it's quite a steady business for the Tata Motors group, wherein we have seen that all in all, even the industry growth hasn't been that great, but it's not that bad either, because specifically with respect to the truck industry growth, that was flat in the financial year 24, while it has seen a bit of a decline of 4% on a YY basis in FY25. But Jeffries estimates that going ahead between FY25 and 28, industry can witness a 3% growth. So that sort of a steady growth is what you can expect from the industry perspective. But for Tata Motors commercial vehicle arm, what we generally see is that it's a stable business. The margins have been steady all throughout, no major pressures in terms of the margins. The cash, it's a franchisee which actually generates the cash. It's a low growth but resilience business, and of late the company has come out with a very interesting announcement with respect to the Iveco deal as well. So going ahead with the kind of a global coverage that Iveco will get for Tata Motors in the times ahead, in the next couple of years, even that deal will start benefiting and contributing in terms of the financials. And with respect to the valuation metrics as well, 10 times EV by EBITDA 1 year forward is what Tata Motors is now pegged at. 10 to 11 is the multiple that the analysts give for the commercial vehicle entity. Now Ashok Leyland 1 year forward is around 13 times. So with respect to that, it's not too cheap with respect to its peer valuations as well. So definitely all eyes on Tata Motors commercial vehicle listing today.
That's right. So all eyes on Tata Motors commercial listing today, and let's see how that pans out. But all eyes will also be on Grow's IPO. Now, it is going to list on the bourses today, and its parent company, Billion Brains Garage, that's going to list after it has received a healthy response from investors. This is, in fact, it was subscribed about 17 times, and Mitali is here to take us through the listing scenarios.
So we'll have our eyes on the Grow's listing today. But if we talk about the listing scenarios, let's look at one by one. At the issue price of 100, the post-IPO PE works out to be around 40.82 times, implying the stock is priced at around 41 times its diluted earning per share of rupees 2.45. Now the pre-IPO EPS was around 3.01 rupees, which drops to 2.45 post the issue due to dilution. So effectively, the IPO values the company at a forward PE of 41 times on a post-issue basis. Comparatively, if the stock lists at rupees 110, the PE expands to around 44.9 times, while if it lists at rupees 90, if it trades around 36.7 times. This gives us a valuation range of around 37 times and 45 times of the earnings, depending on the listing settlements.
All right, thank you so much, Mitali, for all those details. But with this, let's listen in to what Lalit Kishore, who is the whole-time director and chief executive officer of Billionaires Brains Garage Ventures, that is Grow, had to say on the revenue growth outlook.
If you look at the growth and so on, right? So except for that one-off thing that happened around October last year because of the true to the label and because of the change in regulations and derivatives and so on, that there you see like a one-time dip, and then then you again start growing from there. So that is like how you see. But if you look at the resilience, from the resilience perspective, like our company has shown a lot more resilience compared to the industry, because we are a lot more diversified, and our the revenue dependency on other products is kind of growing. So that's why like the dip is much lower. Overall, like we see that in long term, capital markets in the country will continue growing, and we will kind of continue taking more share.
All right, so that's about the Grow's management. Let's watch out for the listing later today. But on that note, we're completely timed out on this edition of Market Cafe. Srishti and I will take your leave, but don't go anywhere. The market will take all the action forward.